Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name's Anna. I'm a clinical psychology doctoral candidate, and on this channel we talk about real life applications to psychology. This video is probably called Psychoanalyzing Popular Song Lyrics, but it's not really technically psychoanalysis. If you actually know what psychoanalysis is, that's not the lens that I operate by. That's really just to summarize what I'm doing today, which is really just analyzing the song lyrics psychologically. Of course, this is just looking at the lyrics of specific songs. It doesn't reflect on the artist necessarily. For all we know, this could be a persona or someone else wrote them. So if I say, for instance, that a song is narcissistic, I'm not saying that the person who wrote it is narcissistic. I might make this a series, so if you have any songs that you want me to psychologically analyze, put that in the comments down below. Today we're going to be looking at Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, Ancient Dreams in a Modern Land by Marina, and Way Too Sexy by Drake, Future, and Young Thug. Since we're doing Avril Lavigne today, I'm going to go get my emo gear just a second, and let me show you a magic trick. Septum ring out. As you can see, Avril Lavigne was pivotal in my emo phase in middle school. So let's get started. Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne. Hey, hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. No way, I think you need a new one. Hey, hey, you, I could be your girlfriend. Hey, hey, you, I know that you like me. No way, you know it's not a secret. Hey, hey, you, I want to be your girlfriend. So this is the Pick Me anthem. I guess what I'm wondering here is, obviously this is about a woman who's trying to convince a man to leave his girlfriend for her. And what is to stop that man from being as impressionable to the next woman once the two of them are in a relationship? I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, but how you get him is how you're gonna lose him. If you steal someone from another woman, it's very likely that some other woman is gonna steal him from you. So I'm not really sure where she thinks this is gonna take her. Also, it's interesting because here she's talking about not liking his girlfriend, not necessarily liking him as a person, which makes me think, is this more about envy than it is about desire? Envy, if you don't know, is about wanting to take something from someone else, whereas desire would be, wanting him because of something intrinsic about who he is as a person. I talk in my video about copycats how envy can be one of the scariest reasons that someone is copying you, because clearly they want your life. They want something because of who you are as a person, because for some reason they don't like you. They want to take what is yours. So it seems to me that it's not so much about this guy as it is about his girlfriend. And after all, the song is titled Girlfriend. It's not called Boyfriend, Be My Boyfriend. You're so fine, I want you mine, you're so delicious. I think about you all the time, you're so addictive. Don't you know what I can do to make you feel all right, all right, all right, all right. So we see those early stages of a crush where she's very much infatuated with him, idealizing him. In those initial honeymoon stages, it's not really easy to see a person as multifaceted. It's not easy to see that they have some flaws along with the things that you really like about them. And there also seems to be this element of transgression, because as we know, when we humans transgress because of things like, knowing that the other person's in a relationship, there is this level of excitement to it that I imagine makes the crush and the infatuation and the idealization all the more exciting to her. Don't pretend, I think you know I'm damn precious. And hell yeah, I'm the mother effing princess. I can tell you like me too, and you know I'm right. I'm right. So we see her describe herself as precious and princess, so we see a little bit of entitlement and grandiosity coming out. Entitlement in that she feels she's entitled to having him simply because she wants him, and the grandiosity in seeing herself as superior to his girlfriend, to other women, because she is a princess. She's just so precious, she's just so spunky. And as we know, entitlement, grandiosity, these can be signs of narcissism. So that's something I'll be looking out for in the rest of these lyrics. There's also this question of, he's in a relationship and yet she knows that he likes him. A lot of people like to ask, is that normal? Is it normal to be attracted to other people when you're in a relationship? There are some people who do not ascribe to monogamy in relationships, who decide with their partner that they are allowed to pursue other people. There are those who actually don't feel attracted to other individuals once they're in a relationship. There's a large spectrum of what is the case. And there's no real normal, as long as you're being respectful of everyone's needs, as long as you're communicating, you're being honest, there's no normal versus abnormal thing to do. But I will say that in monogamous relationships, there's a difference between objectively thinking that someone is attractive and being attracted to them. Thinking someone is attractive is more neutral. It doesn't imply a relationship. It doesn't imply that you're being drawn to them. Versus being attracted to someone, it's more emotionally charged. It does imply kind of like a magnet that you are being attracted to them. And in monogamous relationships, if you and your partner have established that you're not going to pursue other people, it's generally a good idea to stop it before it gets to that second type of attraction. If you already think that someone's attractive, if you already know that you like them, maybe don't take it too far to the point where you're already starting to really revolve around them.
You talk about how they're objectifying themselves.
Who?
Drake, Future, and Young Thug.
No, they're not.
They're saying I'm too sexy. Isn't that objectification?
No, I don't think you know what objectification is.
I know what objectification is.
Okay. Okay, put your headphones on.
Okay.
I'll let you know when I need you. She's like, so whatever. You could do so much better. I think we should get together now, and that's what everyone's talking about. So again, we see this grandiosity. She sees herself as better than this guy's girlfriend. It's a power trip, and we're not really sure what it's based on because she's not really telling us a whole lot about this other woman. She's not telling us what she's like as a person. In the music video, she's definitely seen as like bland and boring, and that she's wearing like non-punk clothes and she has glasses and she seems a little dorky. Those are all very superficial things. You know, for all we know, she could be very funny, she could be smart, she could be kind, but none of that matters to this persona that's singing these things because she's spunky and she's so much more fun, and that makes her so much better. Also in this line, and that's what everyone's talking about, I think that's also really important to the narcissism piece, because it seems like this persona cares very much about other people's perceptions, about what other people are thinking, and about being in the spotlight and getting the glory and stealing someone from someone else, having that power, winning. All of these are things that someone who has a narcissistic personality tendency tends to oscillate towards. They tend to care very much about what other people think and about other people thinking that they're winning. I can see the way I see the way you look at me, and even when you look away, I know you think of me. I know you talk about me all the time, again and again, again. So come over here and tell me what I want to hear. Better yet, make your girlfriend disappear. I don't want to hear you say her name ever again and again and again and again. So tell me what I want to hear. She's basically asking for narcissistic supply. I don't want to hear you say her name ever again. That's really interesting because already if they're going to get in a relationship, it's going to have a pretty unstable foundation. She's already feeling threatened by his girlfriend and they're not even together yet. And if his feelings for his girlfriend are true, if they're deeper than the superficial, those aren't going to disappear. They're going to start to resurface once his relationship with Avril's persona starts to lose its novelty, once the sparks start to disappear. If there is something of value there in his actual relationship, that's not just going to disappear because she comes in and she says she's better than his girlfriend. In a second, you'll be wrapped around my finger, because I can do it better. There's no other, so when's it going to sink in? She's so stupid, what the hell were you thinking? So again, this phrase of being wrapped around my finger suggests, again, the power trip, wanting power over someone, being able to manipulate him, all things associated with narcissism. She feels like she needs to put down this other woman to elevate herself. I suspect it really comes from a place of low self-esteem, of insecurity, because people who are secure with themselves, they don't really feel the need to put others down. So some concluding thoughts. This is seemingly the narcissistic pick-me anthem of music. I think it's just a fun little fantasy that we can all take part in for like 3 to 4 minutes. I think the reason it's such a hit is because a lot of people like to lean into our darker sides now and then, to lean into this idea of power tripping, of being grandiose and entitled and stealing someone from something and winning. It's fun to temporarily inhabit this song where we're winning, even if the person in the song seems to have the emotional intelligence of a 3-year-old. Okay. I'm gonna put aside the emo gear for now as we go into Ancient Dreams in a Modern Land by Marina. Our ancestors had to fight to survive just so we could have a chance of a life. We're not here so we can blow it all. We could bear witness to the rise and the fall. I think this is starting to speak to the drawbacks of human evolution. Obviously, we come from more simple, more animalistic, so to speak, ancestors who were like cavemen, had simpler lifestyle, hunter-gatherers, didn't have the inventions and technology that we have today, but also didn't have a lot of the self-destructive elements that we have today, because although we're very evolved, we have very evolved brains, they're also very destructive. We get too in our brains. We get too complex, we overcomplicate things, and we start to self-sabotage ourselves and as a society. So I think that might be what she's referring to here. And of course, the rise and the fall refers to the ebb and flow of society. No society rises without falling. There's usually some sort of oscillation throughout history, and it's never stable across time. Ancient Dreams in a Modern Land, I'm trying to get back as fast as I can. Back to a time before I had form, back to a time before I was born. So before she had form, before she was born, I'm assuming she's talking about long in the past, like long before she was ever conceived or anything like that. It's an intriguing concept because I'm wondering, how ancient is she talking? True, there was somewhat less, let's say, religious oppression back in the day. Back in pagan times, people were kind of just worshiping whatever they wanted. There wasn't as much of a pressure to convert people, but there was still a lot of oppression, a lot of misogyny, a lot of war. There were some pretty messed up things happening in history even back then. I'm a little bit torn about whether to idealize this ancient land, because obviously there were some real drawbacks to it. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I'm here to take a look inside myself, recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. So she's talking about conformity here, which is very interesting because I'm sorry about my voice. I don't know what's wrong with it today, but we live in a very globalized, technology-run world in which it's very easy for people to want to conform and to feel like if they're not belonging to some sort of group, that they're not doing it right, that they're failing at life. And in olden times, people, yeah, they had their village, they had their group, they had their family. It was a little bit easier to belong and to conform because they were literally the same culture, whereas now we have all these different cultures and subcultures to choose from. But I think there was still that insider-outsider dynamic where, yeah, you belonged to your village, let's say, but there were also outsiders that you didn't agree with, that you still thought you were doing better than them. So I think conformity is a tale as old as time and not something necessarily specific to the modern age. But I see what she means. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to fit into the norm. You are not here to conform. I am here to take a look inside myself, recognize that I could be the eye of the storm. So again, she's talking about conformity, how conformity is not the be-all end-all, which is wonderful. Conformity can lead to a lot of peer pressure, a lot of negative outcomes, as we know. Initially, when she said she can be the eye of the storm, I thought she meant like the bringer of change. But then as I thought about the metaphor, I think she means like the person who stands out against all the chaos, the person who's still kind of doing their own thing even when the world is spinning around them. And I think that's a beautiful metaphor. I'm not my body, not my mind or my brain, not my thoughts or feelings. I am not my DNA. I am the observer, I'm a witness of life. I live in the space between the stars and the sky. When she says I'm not my body, I'm assuming she's referring to either the animalistic part of humans, so, you know, the part that was driven by a lot of instinct, by a lot of biological drives, or maybe the objectification of women. She could also be referring to that. It's interesting that she said not my mind or my brain, because as a psychologist in training, I very much place a lot of focus on what we do with our mind and our brain. And as a particularly CBT oriented clinician, which is, you know, focused on cognitions and behaviors and feelings, the part about not being your thoughts or feelings, that also I don't completely relate to that, because I think our thoughts and our feelings and our brain do kind of make us who we are. But I think what she's getting at here is that she kind of transcends that. She's not talking about body here. She's not talking about our animal part. She's not talking about mind here. She's not talking about our human part. She's talking about something, I think, more spiritual, something like the soul maybe. When she talks about being the space between the stars and the sky, that almost makes me think of like astral projection, which is, to oversimplify it, when people are inducing an out-of-body experience where they kind of bolt into the sky and they see the stars and other things around them. I think this paragraph really speaks to wanting to preserve the sacredness of the self without depending on things like the body and the mind, which are more tangible, about kind of transcending that to derive self-worth from something a little bit more spiritual and a little bit less concrete. It's pretty in line with pagan beliefs, which seems to be what she's kind of referencing in this song. And I know some other songs also explicitly call out witchcraft, so it doesn't completely surprise me that she's aligning herself with these values. What's your purpose? Why were you put on earth? You could be lost, but you belong to the world. We're now living in a seminal age. The walls are being broken and we're ready for change. So again, she's talking about a greater purpose, seeing the bigger picture, going beyond minuscule human concerns, which are, if you really look at the universe we live in, very small and probably not that important. And she's alluding to a shift in perspective in our collective, us trying to focus on the bigger picture and not focusing so much on tiny things like our thoughts and feelings, our minds, our bodies, our animalistic instincts, our human instincts. I think it's a great message. And lastly, let's look at Way Too Sexy by Drake, Future, and Young Thug, the feminist trifecta. So this is from Right Said Fred, which I think Was this in Shrek? It might have been in a Shrek movie at some point. Maybe I'm mixing it up with something else. I'm too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts. I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York or Japan. It's, again, a very narcissistic anthem. I think it's kind of poking fun. I think it's a little ironic, but it is just, you know, poking fun at somebody's own grandiosity. It does make me wonder about the underlying insecurity in the person that made this song, because anytime you have to say, I'm so blank, that blank could be anything, I really have to wonder if it's a cope, because people who are actually blank, they don't need to say it, they know that it shows in their actions. So then we have the chorus from Future. Yeah, whoa, 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 I'm too sexy for this syrup, too sexy for your girl, too sexy for this world, too sexy for this ice, too sexy for that jack, yeah, yeah, I'm too sexy for this chain, too sexy for your gang, too sexy for this fame, yeah, yeah, I'm too sexy for the trap, too sexy for that cap, too sexy for that jack, yeah, yeah. Syrup, of course, he's referring to drugs, so he's saying he's too sexy for drugs. That's good role modeling. He's too sexy for ice or chain. So I'm assuming he says that he transcends materialism, like he's so wonderful that he doesn't need to derive his self-worth from all that material stuff, but I could be wrong. The part that's maybe not so great is where he talks about being too good for certain people, like too good for your girl, too good for your gang. You again see this grandiosity that's kind of a theme today, where persona in the song sees themselves as much superior to other people. And when he explicitly says he's too sexy for this world, like literally everyone in the world, literally the entire universe that we live in, again, maybe overestimating his worth just a little bit, because none of us are that important. I always think it's interesting when people really want to exert their worth, they really want to leave a legacy and they want to be important, because the truth is, in the grand scheme of things, none of us is that important, and that's perfectly okay. So then we have the first verse from Drake. Okay, all right, that's fine, okay. I'm feeling too sexy to accept requests, way too sexy. And I'm way too sexy to go unprotected, way too sexy. And she popped a Tesla, now she's going electric. Okay, all right, that's fine, okay. Think we got too sexy for that metro house in, way too sexy. Diamond popped out, almost swallowed 60,000, 60 piece. Section need more tings in here, I like it crowded, whoa, whoa. Yeah, I like it crowded. Oh, you like the boy? Well, tell me what you like about him. You a turned up little thotty, ain't no wife about it. I'ma F her friends and send her back to metro housing. Ooh. So this is where it starts to get problematic. So, okay, too sexy to accept requests. Okay, like I can see that. When you accept requests or you talk to anyone that comes your way, I guess it does suggest some level of like desperation or lack of standards. So maybe he is too sexy to do that. He has standards. That's great. Too sexy to go unprotected. Also, good role modeling. That's a good thing to brag about. Good. But then we see some materialism coming in, which to me seems like exactly the opposite of what Future was saying, because Future was saying that he's too sexy to prove himself through materialism, but it seems like Drake is saying he's too sexy to not prove himself through materialism. Maybe I'm reading into this wrong, but it just seems like an inconsistency. Like, are we doing the materialism or are you better than that? Like, it's kind of hard to tell. Then when he says, you a turned up little thotty, ain't no wife about it, we see the Madonna whore complex, which is a tale as old as time. This idea that women fall into two dichotomous categories. Either they are these pure maternal angels, or they are these sexual objects who do not deserve respect. Not only is it incredibly insulting to women, it's also incredibly reductionistic. It's a pretty immature way of viewing the world. Also, I guess I'm kind of just wondering, like, what is the relevance of bragging about all this misogyny in a song about your own inflated ego? Like, it seems like if this song is about you being too sexy, why are you rapping about disrespecting women? Sometimes I feel like people just throw it in there when they have nothing else to say in a song, and they're just like, yeah, I have nothing of substance to say, so I'm just gonna do the one thing that I know sells, which is misogyny. I'ma F her friends and send her back to metro housing. That's nice. More objectification, more disrespect, more discarding. These are literal abuse tactics, like they're emotional abuse. So to quote him, okay, all right, that's fine, okay, emotional abuse is fantastic. Then we have verse 2 by Future. I pop out, get ghost on a bee, did a 360 windmill when I left the scene, take that action, her best work on her knees. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably not the best person to analyze this part because I'm not really sure what a lot of these references are. I'm obviously, you know, a Romanian woman from a very different culture, so I'm not gonna comment on too many of these details, but it seems like he's rapping about style. Again, I really do not appreciate the parts where he's just being misogynistic. Like that first line about ghosting women, like that's like discarding. It's like literally treating a woman like an object and then discarding of her, which is again emotional abuse. Don't think we should be bragging about that. Then the second line where he talks about his incarcerated friends. I think that has some potential to be a really good message, because the incarceration of Black men is a huge problem and something that it seems like he has experience with his friends. So I think that would make a much more substantial song if he were to really dig into that and talk about what it's like and what he wants to change and how it feels for him, rather than just saying, I'm so great, I have great style, and I mistreat women. And that line, that's that action, her best work on her knees. More degradation and dehumanization of women. Fantastic. That requires great skill to throw in there. Too sexy for this cash, too sexy for this syrup, too sexy for these pills. I'm too sexy for this. I get cash wherever I fly. I got bitch sexing on me. Money, cars, and all this jewelry make a bitch look sexy. I get cash wherever I fly. Got bitches sexing on me. I'm getting really tired of like this equation of women with bitches. It's really degrading. It contributes to the problem of why men don't see women as human beings, why they see them as like a tier below men. I would love for that to stop. Also, you see this juxtaposition of cash and bitches, which again shows that women are like an object that fame is supposed to attain for you. Then we have a verse by Young Thug. Too sexy to count, Fetty, my neck spaghetti, red diamond spaghetti, this paper I shredded, I swindled, no sweating, I saw you begging, goddamn you petty, I ain't done spending, no penny pinch, I spend it, bags in and out, my man ain't gonna steal it, 100 bags for her, make these young hoes wish they were rich. This one again seems to be very focused on materialism. Baby, what is neck spaghetti? What is neck spaghetti?
It means you got a fancy chain on them.
Okay, what is red diamond spaghetti? Like literally red diamonds and spaghetti?
It's probably also having to do with jewelry.
Okay.
But again, it's referring to little crystals.
Okay, what are all green gators?
Shoes.
Okay, you can go away.
Oh, I can go away. Where the red diamonds look like spaghetti because of their tint. Like spaghetti is with red sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, either way it's
That's clever.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not being sarcastic, It is kind of clever. Yeah, so then just more materialism. And then I think this last line is interesting. I pray to the chopper under my pillow, tooth fairy. It kind of speaks to this idea of being threatened and having to resort to aggression to defend yourself, which I'm not necessarily going to condemn because I know sometimes there are very real threats out there and sometimes you really do need to defend yourself. And it's not like he's saying I'm out here being the aggressor. That's not really what he's implying. So some concluding thoughts about this one. I don't think it's very cohesive, and maybe this is just that they didn't talk amongst themselves about what the message was going to be, but it just seems a little filled with contradictions. Like on one hand, Future saying he's too sexy for materialism, then Drake says that he's, too sexy, but he is taking part in all this materialism, and then Young Thug is as well. Sometimes it just seemed like they didn't have too much of substance to say, so they just resorted to grandiosity, materialism, aggression, and misogyny, which overall makes me think that these personas that they've taken are kind of insecure individuals who feel like they always need to prove themselves. Also, Drake's persona as a nice guy outside of the song really is not consistent with the misogyny that he puts out in his music. It's kind of irritating that people think he's like this nice soft guy when he's clearly not. And it just sucks because I actually really love this beat. Like I initially played this song because my boyfriend told me that it was going to be like ridiculous, and I actually really ended up liking it because of the instrumentals. And I would love to listen to it, but I can't do that because I don't tolerate listening to men brag about how they degrade and dehumanize women. I know this is not solely a rap issue because, like, for instance, Avril Lavigne's song was filled with instrumental aggression that women tend to use more often. I think it just speaks to how the top rappers and singers out there are aggressive and misogynistic, whether misogynistic or like internalized misogynistic, because it's what the audience wants. It's what we eat up, and so that's what they do more of. And I think there are plenty of rappers out there who make more meaningful music, but that's just simply not what sells, unfortunately. It's not a racial issue either. Like, all the top rappers of different races tend to be very misogynistic. If we look at Eminem, for instance, G-Eazy, I heard PG-1 is this Chinese rapper who basically admitted to being a misogynist. And I don't think it's okay when rap is demonized for racial reasons, but I also don't think it's okay when its misogyny is excused just because. It goes back to this idea of intersectionality, that you can struggle with gang violence and poverty and mass incarceration, and you can still be held accountable for spewing very misogynistic takes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that song. If you have other recommendations for what kinds of song lyrics you want me to psychoanalyze, put that in the comments down below. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.